Greetings, everyone. Today, we are delighted to share with you 15 timeless stories of wisdom from the ancients, seemingly simple tales that hold profound philosophies, offering us new perspectives and fostering greater understanding. Let us listen and reflect on these stories to truly appreciate the invaluable lessons passed down by our predecessors. Join us on this journey of insight and growth. Story 1. Giving alms every day, yet unable to escape disaster. Why? In the southwest region, there was a place called La Tra, home to Mr. Lamb, a retired upright official. Known for his integrity and simplicity, Mr. Lamb lived a modest life. After retiring, he purchased 10 acres of farmland to cultivate, leading a peaceful existence. Though his wealth was not vast, it was sufficient to provide his family with stability, making him moderately well off in the area. Mr. Lamb had 2 sons. His eldest, Duong, was bright and intelligent, while his second son, Vin, was born with a crippled leg but possessed a sharp and resourceful mind. Mr. Lamb often advised his sons, "In times of turmoil, holding office is fraught with danger. After I pass away, you need not pursue the imperial examinations. Live peacefully, root yourselves in kindness, and avoid disputes that would bring disgrace upon you." After Mr. Lamb passed away, Duong and Vin divided the inheritance equally. Duong, being energetic and business-minded, immediately started lending money for interest. He built a spacious, well-furnished house and established a relief station for beggars in the area. The station provided a place to sleep and hot porridge every morning. But there was a rule. Beggars had to bring something in exchange, such as a brick or a bundle of firewood. In this way, Duong was able to help others while accumulating resources to sell later. Meanwhile, Vin stayed in their father's old house and earned a living through farming. One day, a passerby came to Vin's house asking for food. Instead of simply giving alms, Vin asked the man to help him move a large pile of firewood from the front yard to the back. After the task was completed, Vin cooked a meal for the man and said, "You have strength and capable hands. Why resort to begging? Here is payment for moving the firewood. Build your life with dignity. Do not lower yourself like this." The beggar, moved to tears, accepted the silver coin Vin gave him and left with a heart full of gratitude. Years later, disaster struck the La Tra region. Famine and locusts devastated the crops, forcing many to leave their homes. Duong, despite his previous acts of kindness, found himself begging for food to survive. Thanks to his reputation for charity, some of the beggars he had helped before offered him small amounts of aid, allowing him to scrape by. After 2 years of hardship, Duong returned to La Tra to rebuild his life. As for Vin, during the calamity, a stranger arrived with a horse-drawn carriage and evacuated his entire family to safety. It turned out that this man was none other than Ni Vin Nguai, the beggar Vin had helped years ago. With the silver coin Vin had given him, he had started a business, eventually becoming a wealthy merchant. Upon learning of Vin's plight, he did not hesitate to help, providing food and supplies to support Vin and his family through the difficult times. After the natural disaster passed, Duong returned home and found his younger brother, Vin, looking healthy and full of life. Surprised, he asked Vin about his situation. After listening to Vin's story, Duong blushed with shame and admitted, "It turns out that I was merely practicing small acts of kindness, while you were truly doing great acts of compassion. True kindness is not just about providing immediate help, but also about giving others the opportunity and ability to rebuild their own lives. The greatest act of charity is empowering others to stand on their own, enabling them to improve their lives independently." Story 2. A heart of kindness is the most profitable investment. In a peaceful village, there lived a family who led a simple and modest life filled with happiness. In their home, they cared for a pair of beautiful goldfish that everyone in the family adored. Day by day, they enjoyed the pleasures of a tranquil rural life, and their small home was always filled with laughter and joy. But those peaceful days did not last. One day, war suddenly broke out. Enemy troops approached the village, forcing the family to hurriedly pack their belongings onto a wagon and flee. After traveling a considerable distance, the young son suddenly cried out, "Father, we forgot to bring our goldfish with us." The father, torn with hesitation, replied, "We don't have enough time to go back now, son." However, the boy pleaded, "But the goldfish are part of our family. If we leave them behind, they will die. Mother, father, how can we abandon them?" Hearing this, the mother's heart ached as well. "That's true. Who knows when we'll be able to return? If the water in their tank runs dry, they won't survive," she said. The father pondered for a moment before deciding to turn the wagon around. From afar, the sound of bombs and gunfire roared, filling the family with fear, yet they couldn't bear to abandon their beloved goldfish. They hid their wagon under a large tree near their home and carefully placed the goldfish into the water tank behind the house. "Take care," the boy said, waving goodbye to the goldfish as the family hurriedly fled once more. The war lasted over a year before they were finally able to return to their village. What awaited them was a scene of devastation. Lush green fields had turned to ashes, and their home was heavily damaged. The father sighed deeply and said, "Our house, our fields, everything has been destroyed. How will we survive now?" Suddenly, the boy shouted from behind the house, "Father, come here quickly." The family, puzzled, didn't understand what had made him so excited. They walked through the debris and broken trees, following the fence, and were met with an astonishing sight. In the water tank behind the house, the goldfish they had saved had given birth to an entire school of baby fish. The tiny fish sparkled under the sunlight, creating a magical scene. The father, deeply moved, patted his son's head and said, "This time, our family is saved." The family brought the goldfish to the city, selling them as ornamental fish. This helped them get through their difficult days and gradually rebuild their lives. A heart inclined toward kindness is truly an investment that yields long-term benefits. Compassion and benevolence not only save lives, whether human or animal, but also bring unexpected rewards, helping us overcome challenges and discover true happiness. Hello, and welcome to this video filled with profound lessons from the wisdom of our ancestors. We wish you an enjoyable viewing experience and hope you gain many valuable insights. Story 3. The piece of meat in the vegetarian meal. One day, a venerable monk was invited to attend a vegetarian banquet. The dishes on the table were beautifully arranged, exuding a sense of purity and serenity. However, in one of the vegetarian dishes, there was a piece of pork mixed in. A disciple accompanying the monk noticed this and deliberately used his chopsticks to lift the piece of meat, intending for the host to realize the mistake. But to his surprise, the venerable monk calmly used his chopsticks to gently push the piece of meat out of sight. A moment later, the disciple lifted the meat again. This time, the monk once more moved the meat aside and quietly whispered into his disciple's ear, "If you lift it again, I will eat it." The disciple was stunned by his teacher's words and immediately stopped what he was doing. After the banquet, on their way back, the disciple, still puzzled, asked, "Master, the cook clearly knew we were vegetarians, but carelessly allowed meat to get mixed into the food. I just wanted the host to notice, so the cook would be punished." The venerable monk gently replied, Asterisk, "In life, everyone makes mistakes at some point, whether intentional or accidental. If the host were to notice, he might become angry and punish the cook, or even dismiss him. That is not the outcome I wish to see." Upholding principles is undoubtedly important, but one should not forget compassion in the process. If something can be overlooked, let it go. People's circumstances and perspectives differ, so misunderstandings and differences are inevitable. If we focus solely on arguing and proving ourselves right, even if we win, it will not earn others' respect. Furthermore, such disputes can often lead to resentment and unintended consequences. Giving others a way out is also giving yourself a path forward. This is not only an act of tolerance, but also a way to foster harmony and kindness in society. Asterisk. Story 4. When you truly let go, worries will disappear. One autumn evening at sunset, the surroundings were gloomy and somber. In the middle of a vast, desolate field, a weary traveler walked silently, his steps unsteady and exhausted. The endless expanse of the field was devoid of any human presence. Suddenly, the traveler noticed a faint, whitish shape flickering in the distance. As he approached, he was stunned to see that it was a skeleton. The bones lay exposed and solitary in the barren field, offering no explanation for their presence. Confused by the strange sight, the traveler suddenly heard a terrifying roar echoing from afar. Looking up, he saw a large tiger with fiery eyes and bristling fur, slowly approaching him. In that instant, the traveler realized the cause of the skeleton before him. The tiger was the threat. Overcome with fear, he dared not hesitate and immediately turned to flee. He ran without regard for direction until he reached a sheer cliff. With no path left, he noticed a large pine tree at the edge of the cliff, from which hung a slender vine. Without a second thought, he grasped the vine and lowered himself, hanging precariously on the cliff face. Above him, the tiger prowled back and forth, growling menacingly, its sharp gaze fixed on him. Thinking he had temporarily escaped danger, the traveler glanced downward and turned pale. Beneath him lay a vast, churning sea with towering waves. Amidst the ferocious waters, 3 menacing dragons opened their massive jaws, eagerly waiting to devour him should he fall. His heart froze in terror, his entire body trembling as he gripped the vine tightly, too afraid to let go. As if the situation weren't dire enough, he noticed 2 mice, one black and one white, emerge at the base of the vine. They began taking turns gnawing at the fragile rope. The traveler frantically shook the vine, trying to scare them away, but his efforts were futile. The slender vine, now riddled with bite marks, grew weaker with every passing moment, ominously signaling the approach of its inevitable break. In the midst of shaking the vine, something unexpected happened. From a branch nearby, golden drops of honey began to fall. One drop landed on his lips, and he instinctively licked it. The sweet and delicate flavor spread through him, soothing all his worries. Suddenly, the terror and dread of his predicament seemed to vanish. For a brief moment, he forgot the tiger above, the perilous sea below, and the imminent breaking of the vine. All that remained was the comforting sweetness of the honey, a small solace amidst his overwhelming despair. Buddha Shakyamuni used this story to illustrate the reality of life. The traveler symbolizes humanity, individuals wandering alone in the world. The vast, desolate field represents life itself, expansive yet empty, where people often feel lonely and lost. The tiger signifies death, ever-present and stalking each of us. No matter how far or fast we try to flee, we cannot escape it in the end. The vine represents the fragility of life, while the black and white mice, symbolizing day and night, take turns gnawing away at our time. The honey reflects the fleeting joys and small pleasures that momentarily distract us from reality. While they provide temporary comfort, they cannot alter the inevitability of what is to come. This story serves as a profound reminder of life's impermanence, urging us to look beyond temporary distractions and seek deeper truths. The image of a person forgetting imminent danger for a taste of sweetness illustrates our delusions. We often chase after superficial things, content with fleeting moments of joy, while ignoring the brevity and fragility of life. Even in the face of looming threats, we are easily distracted, indulging in temporary pleasures instead of confronting reality. This serves as a reflection of human nature, reminding us to seek deeper meaning and understanding rather than being consumed by transient gratification. Story 5. Where does human suffering come from? One day, at the Jetavana monastery in the kingdom of Savatthi, the Buddha was giving a sermon to thousands of monks, countless bodhisattvas, and heavenly beings. The monastery was filled with an atmosphere of divinity and solemnity. However, from outside, the voice of an old man suddenly echoed, breaking the tranquility. The old man appeared frail, yet carried an unusual presence. Black hair, perfectly aligned white teeth, and a dignified bearing, as if he came from a noble background. However, In stark contrast to his appearance, he lived in extreme poverty, wearing tattered clothes and suffering from constant hunger. His life was filled with misfortune, neither able to live peacefully nor die with dignity. Upon hearing that the Buddha was preaching at the Jetavana monastery, the old man resolved to make the long journey, which took him 10 years, just to see the enlightened one once in his lifetime. Finally arriving at the monastery, he was stopped by the gatekeeper and denied entry. Despite his heartfelt pleas, the gatekeeper remained firm and refused to let him in. The old man cried out loudly, "My entire life has been full of suffering. I live in misery, unable to die yet incapable of truly living. I've heard that the Blessed One is infinitely compassionate, treating all sentient beings as equals. I've traveled for 10 long years, crossing countless miles, just to meet him and seek guidance to escape this suffering. But now I am stopped here. Isn't my final glimmer of hope being cut off?" The old man's heartfelt plea reached the ears of the Buddha. Turning to Ananda, the Buddha asked, "Ananda, have you ever encountered someone with such a dignified appearance and signs of longevity, yet still bound by so much karma?" Ananda replied, "Venerable One, how can someone with unresolved karma also possess signs of longevity? I have never encountered such a person." The Buddha gently said, "That man is waiting outside. Invite him in." When the old man stepped into the monastery and saw the Buddha, he could not hold back his tears. He knelt at the Buddha's feet, sobbing, "Blessed One, I have waited for this day for 10 long years. To see you, I could die content. Please, enlightened one, grant me guidance. Teach me how to eliminate my karma and escape the suffering that has tormented me throughout this lifetime." The Buddha, with a compassionate tone, replied, "Birth, death, and suffering all stem from the law of cause and effect. Do you wish to know why you face such consequences in this life? Let me tell you." The Buddha recounted that in a previous life, the old man had been a crown prince of a great kingdom, possessing both intelligence and talent. However, he was arrogant and egotistical, adored by the royal family and admired by the citizens. He used his blessings not to serve his country, but to belittle others and commit many wrongful deeds, accumulating negative karma. One day, a poor monk named Tin Tri came to ask the crown prince for a robe. Instead of compassionately helping him, the prince left the monk starving for 3 days and nights, treating it as a source of entertainment. When the prince saw the monk become frail and emaciated, reduced to skin and bones, he felt even more amused and called his servants to witness the scene, treating it as a joke. Despite this mistreatment, the monk bore no resentment. Later, when the monk faced danger from bandits, it was the crown prince who saved him. The Buddha concluded, "Benefactor, in this life, you endure poverty and hardship because in your past life, you were stingy and unwilling to give. However, your longevity is the result of the merit you earned by saving the monk's life. Karma and merit are like shadows and forms. They do not cancel each other out, but always coexist." Upon hearing this, the old man tearfully replied, "Blessed One, I repent for all my sins from my past life. From this moment on, I vow to renounce worldly attachments, seek refuge in the Dharma, and devote my lives to serving by your side to atone for my wrongdoings." The Buddha smiled and accepted his vow. In that very moment, a monastic robe miraculously adorned the old man's body. His physical form became strong, and his appearance radiant. The old man entered deep meditation, attained enlightenment, and merged into the compassionate and wise light of the Buddha. Story 6. The old man who found a treasure on the mountain and brought misfortune to his village. Long ago, in a small village, there lived an old farmer named Truong Tai. He lived a simple life and was known for his kind heart, always ready to help others. One evening, on his way home, he heard a strange noise coming from the forest. Following the sound, he discovered a pangolin trapped in a snare. Feeling pity for the creature, he freed it from the trap and gently said, "Go on, poor pangolin. Be more careful next time." The pangolin, after being freed, did not leave immediately. Instead, it circled around the old man several times, as if to express its gratitude, before disappearing. That night, Truong Tai had a strange dream. A woman dressed in white stood on a large rock behind the village's mountain. On a white silk banner hanging from the rock were the words, "Strike once to uncover a treasure. You will have everything. But remember, only one strike. Any more will bring disaster." Startled awake, Truong Tai was deeply puzzled by the strange dream. The next day, driven by curiosity, Truong Tai went to the mountain behind the village, the place he had seen in his dream. After some searching, he found the large rock from his vision. Its surface was covered with moss and overgrown with plants. Recalling the instructions from his dream, he raised his hoe and struck the rock once. Instantly, a massive gemstone emerged from the earth, sparkling like a precious jewel of immense value. Overjoyed, Truong Tai considered striking again, but the warning of great disaster flashed through his mind, stopping him. Carefully, he took the gemstone home, hid it away, and told no one about his discovery. A few months later, when his wife fell seriously ill and they couldn't afford treatment, Truong Tai decided to sell the gemstone in the city for 1,000 taels of gold. With the money, he repaired their house, hired workers to tend to the fields, and lived a comfortable life with his wife. However, Truong Tai's sudden wealth aroused curiosity among the villagers. Rumors began to spread, ranging from claims that he had discovered a hidden treasure to fabricated tales of shady dealings. Whispers circulated that he had found precious gems behind the mountain but selfishly kept the treasure for himself. Blinded by greed, the villagers began scheming, plotting ways to claim the supposed treasure for themselves. One day, the villagers gathered and accused Truong Tai of hoarding the treasure for himself. They dragged him and his family out, tied them to a tree, and demanded he reveal the location of the treasure. Despite the unjust treatment, Truong Tai bore no resentment and calmly said, "I have some money left in my house. You may take it, but please don't force me to reveal the secret of the treasure." His words did not satisfy the villagers. They continued to interrogate him relentlessly, refusing to spare his family. Seeing his sick wife unable to endure the torment any longer, Truong Tai was forced to reveal the location of the gemstone. As soon as they heard the location, the villagers rushed to the mountain, armed with hoes and shovels, digging frantically like a swarm of bees. However, in their frenzy, they failed to realize that the mountain was a critical point of balance. Their reckless digging disrupted the Earth's natural flow, severing its energy lines and triggering a disaster. When one person struck an underground water source, a massive geyser erupted, shaking the ground violently. The great mountain collapsed, burying everyone in its path. Not a single person who participated in the search survived. The once bustling village was left desolate, with only a few families remaining, those who had stood by Truong Tai and refrained from succumbing to greed. It turned out that the treasure behind the mountain was not just a source of wealth, but also a hidden peril. Greed blinded the villagers, driving them to trample over morality and ultimately bringing disaster upon themselves. Cause and effect always operate with fairness. Those who fight over wealth will perish because of it. Those who pursue money blindly will be buried by it. This story serves as a lesson, reminding us that living in harmony with the natural order, cultivating the mind, nurturing virtue, and practicing kindness is the true path to preserving blessings and enduring prosperity. Story 7. Why did the Buddha summon a disgraced woman scorned by society? Long ago, in the ancient Indian kingdom of Jia, there was a lush orchard, home to a stunningly beautiful young woman named Matla. She was renowned not only for her divine beauty, but also for her indulgent and extravagant lifestyle. Her life was steeped in sensual pleasures, far removed from moral and virtuous principles. One time, Buddha Shakyamuni visited the kingdom of Jia to deliver a sermon. Matla sent fruits from her orchard as an offering to him and the monks. One day, her servant said to her, "Mistress, Buddha Shakyamuni is currently preaching in the great garden. He was once Prince Siddhartha, who renounced his throne to seek the path of enlightenment. It's said that many royals, nobles, and commoners have gathered to hear his teachings. Hearing this, Amat La, curious, decided to meet the Buddha. However, true to her flamboyant nature, she adorned herself in extravagant makeup and expensive jewelry. When she arrived at the gathering, she was stopped by the crowd, who believed she was unworthy to meet the Buddha. At that moment, one of the Buddha's disciples stepped forward and said, "Do not stop her. The Buddha wishes to see her." Under the Bodhi tree, the Buddha was seated in meditation, radiating an aura of compassion and serenity. As Amat La approached, she suddenly felt her lavish jewelry and attire become trivial and even unsightly. Overwhelmed, she knelt before the Buddha and listened intently to his teachings. For the first time in her life, Amat La felt her soul, like parched soil, being refreshed by the nectar of compassion. The Buddha's kind teachings awakened the dormant seeds of goodness within her. To express her gratitude, Amat La invited the Buddha to her residence for a vegetarian meal. The Buddha accepted her invitation, surprising and perplexing many people. They questioned why the Buddha would show such regard for a woman who lived such an indulgent and immoral life. To explain, the Buddha recounted a story from Amat La's past life. In an ancient past life, she was a small bird living in a forest. The little bird sang joyfully each day, flying freely through the trees. But one summer, a severe drought caused wildfires to erupt, engulfing the forest in flames. All the creatures faced the threat of annihilation. The small bird, though fragile and weak, could not bear to witness the devastation. It flew to the river, dipped its wings into the water, and then soared into the sky, sprinkling tiny drops of water onto the flames. The animals in the forest mocked. "Little bird, haven't you heard the saying about butterflies trying to put out fires? What's the point of what you're doing?" The little bird replied, "The fire is raging, and I don't have time to explain. All I know is that I cannot sit idly by." The bird's small yet courageous act moved heaven and earth. Suddenly, a torrential rainstorm poured down, extinguishing the fire and saving all the creatures from destruction. Because of its sincerity and bravery, the little bird was reborn as a beautiful and wealthy young woman in her next life, with the fortune of encountering the Buddha's teachings. The little bird in the story is none other than Amat La in this life. The bird's small but compassionate act brought immense blessings in its next life. The Buddha explained, "The compassion of the divine does not judge beings based on one life or one moment. What she did in her past life laid the foundation for the blessings that allowed her to meet me today and hear the Dharma. Do not judge solely based on the present. Remember that life is a long continuum of cause, effect, and rebirth." The story of Amat La serves as a reminder of the value of even the smallest acts of kindness and a testament to the Buddha's boundless compassion. Within the cycle of rebirth, all beings have the opportunity for enlightenment, as long as they turn toward the path of righteousness and cultivate good deeds. Blessings do not arise from present extravagance, but from the seeds of goodness we have sown throughout the flow of existence. Dear friends, throughout the millennia of history, amidst countless upheavals and changes, our ancestors have distilled invaluable lessons in understanding people, situations, and human interactions. These stories, though originating in the past, still hold profound value today and remain applicable across all aspects of life. Story 8. The Wisdom of the Ancients, Turning Deadlocks into Opportunities. In life, we often encounter situations that seem insurmountable, with challenges that feel impossible to overcome. However, the wise individuals of the past have demonstrated that, with wisdom and adaptability, every problem can find a solution. Especially in interpersonal relationships, they always emphasize sincerity as the foundation, using intelligence and flexibility to turn obstacles into opportunities, leaving us with invaluable lessons. 1. Sincerity as the foundation, a lesson from Confucius. One day, Confucius and his disciples were discussing approaches to interpersonal relationships. Each disciple shared their perspective. Su Lu said, If others treat me with goodwill, I will respond with goodwill. If they treat me with malice, I will respond with malice. Hearing this, Confucius shook his head. This is the behavior of uncivilized people, lacking morality and propriety. Su Kung said, if others treat me with goodwill, I will respond with goodwill. If they treat me with malice, I will advise them to embrace goodness. Confucius replied, this is the way friends should interact. Yin Tzu said, if others treat me with goodwill, I will respond with goodwill. If they treat me with malice, I will still respond with goodwill and encourage them to embrace goodness. Confucius nodded in approval. This is how family members should behave. If you can extend this approach to all people under heaven, you will truly embody benevolence and contribute to the greater good. The lesson from Confucius emphasizes that only by taking sincerity as the foundation can we resolve conflicts and build lasting relationships. 2. Reverse thinking. Sun Bin uses wisdom to overcome challenges. Sun Bin, a brilliant military strategist during the Warring States period, faced a significant challenge when seeking to establish himself at the Wei court. King Hui of Wei, envious of Sun Bin's talent, deliberately set a difficult task for him. The king said, if you can make me step down from my throne, I will appoint you as general. Confident that his secure position on the throne would render Sun Bin helpless, the king believed this task to be impossible. However, Sun Bin remained calm and replied, Your Majesty, I cannot make you step down from the throne, but I can make you rise to it from here. Thinking the proposal no different from the original challenge, King Hui agreed and stepped down from the throne. Immediately, Sun Bin declared, Your Majesty, I have just made you step down from the throne, fulfilling your request. Realizing he had fallen into Sun Bin's clever trap, the king had no choice but to honor his word and appoint Sun Bin as general. This story illustrates the power of reverse thinking, showing how creativity and composure can turn seemingly impossible situations into opportunities for success. 3. Indirect strategy. Yin Zi saves Zhugong. During the spring and autumn period, King Jing of Qi had a great fondness for raising birds. One day, Zhugong, the official in charge of caring for the royal birds, accidentally allowed one to escape. Enraged, the king decided to execute him. Yin Zi, a wise minister, skillfully used his words to intervene. He said to the king, Your Majesty, you may punish Zhugong, but I request that we first discuss his offense before you, so that he may die with clarity. Yin Zi then began his argument. Zhugong is at fault for his negligence in allowing the bird to escape. Your Majesty is at fault for sentencing a man to death over a single bird. If news of this spreads, the vassal states and the people will ridicule the king for valuing a bird's life over that of a human. This will harm your Majesty's reputation. Hearing this, King Jing realized his mistake and pardoned Zhugong. This story highlights how tactful reasoning and indirect strategies can effectively resolve conflicts and guide others toward wiser decisions. 4. Facing adversity with composure. Zhuge Liang resolves a crisis. After Liu Bei's death, the kingdom of Shu faced a grave threat as the Wei and Wu kingdoms formed an alliance to attack. Liu Chan, lacking leadership and courage, was paralyzed with fear and unable to confront the situation. Zhuge Liang, however, remained remarkably calm. He secluded himself in his room for 3 days to meditate and think deeply. With his exceptional intellect, Zhuge Liang devised a strategy that defeated the allied forces, saving the kingdom of Shu from destruction. The stories of Confucius, Sun Bin, Yin Zi, and Zhuge Liang all offer valuable lessons. Sincerity is the foundation of interpersonal relationships. Flexible thinking helps resolve difficulties and turn adversity into opportunity. Indirect strategies are sometimes more effective than direct approaches. Calm reflection enables wise decision-making in the face of major challenges. As Zhuge Liang once said, without simplicity, there is no clarity. Without stillness, there is no foresight. Wisdom is not just the ability to solve problems, but also the clarity to handle relationships and transform difficulties into opportunities. paving the way to success. Story 9. Why did the first disciples not welcome Buddha Shakyamuni? Buddha Shakyamuni, the great enlightened one in human history, endured immense challenges on his journey to spread the Dharma. Yet, even his first disciples were initially unwelcoming when he began teaching. Why was this the case? Let's delve into the story to uncover the reasons behind their reluctance and the profound lessons it holds. The beginning and the fateful encounter. At the birth of Prince Siddhartha, his father, King Suddhodana, held a grand naming ceremony and invited many ascetics to attend. Among them was a young sage named Kondinya, who was struck by the prince's extraordinary appearance. He confidently predicted that the prince would one day attain perfect enlightenment. Years later, upon hearing that Prince Siddhartha had renounced the palace to become an ascetic, Kondinya, along with 4 fellow practitioners, set out to find him. They eventually met and practiced severe asceticism together, believing this to be the only path to enlightenment. However, after years of extreme ascetic practice, the group's bodies became emaciated, and none of them achieved enlightenment. Prince Siddhartha realized that self-mortification was not the right path. He abandoned asceticism and turned to meditation. This decision deeply disappointed Kondinya and his companions. They believed that Siddhartha had given up his resolve to attain enlightenment and succumbed to indulgence. Disillusioned, they left him. After attaining enlightenment under the Bodhi tree and becoming the Buddha, Shakyamuni knew that his 5 former companions were still practicing asceticism at Deer Park. Understanding their yearning for truth, he decided to go there to guide and liberate them. When they saw Buddha approaching from afar, the 5 ascetics discussed among themselves. He abandoned asceticism and became greedy. When he arrives, we will not welcome him, speak to him, or accept anything from him. However, as the Buddha drew near, an aura of compassion and serenity radiated from him, transforming their feelings. Their negative emotions instantly dissolved, and they forgot their prior resolutions. Instead, they hurried to welcome him. One quickly offered water for him to drink. Another spread a mat for him to sit on. A third reverently accepted the monk's robe and alms bowl from his hands. Afterward, the Buddha began teaching the Dharma. With his boundless wisdom and compassion, he inspired and transformed all 5 ascetics. They became his first disciples, including 1. Kyo Tran Nu, 2. Batta, 3. Basubha, 4. Mahanam, 5. Athuyeti. This marked the beginning of the Buddha's Sangha and the spread of his teachings. Abandoning the path of asceticism, all 5 disciples diligently practiced the Dharma. Under the Buddha's guidance, they each attained the state of Arhat, becoming the first noble saints in the history of Buddhism. The Dharma, once encountered, illuminates even the most closed hearts. Story 10. Who truly deserves to be saved by the Buddha? We all desire good fortune, but how many of us truly understand the secret behind it? A story about 2 knights in an enchanted forest will help us reflect on this question. The tale of Merlin and the magical 4-leaf clover. Long ago, in a distant kingdom, there lived a wizard named Merlin, renowned for his profound wisdom and extraordinary magic. One day, Merlin foretold that in 3 days, a magical 4-leaf clover would appear. Whoever possessed this clover would gain eternal luck, transcending all boundaries of space and time. The knights of the kingdom were ecstatic, vowing to retrieve the clover. But when Merlin revealed that it would only grow in the enchanted forest behind the Valley of Forgotten Dreams, silence fell. The forest was wild, dark, and perilous, a place where no one had ever succeeded in finding a 4-leaf clover. Fear and doubt clouded the knights' enthusiasm. Only 2 knights, Not and Sit, decided to brave the terrifying forest. The enchanted forest was exactly as described. Dense layers of overgrown trees blocked all sunlight, and at night, the air was filled with eerie, chilling howls. After searching for a while with no success, Knight Not grew discouraged. He thought to himself, perhaps the 4-leaf clover doesn't exist. Merlin must have exaggerated. Meanwhile, Knight Sit took a different approach. Instead of just searching, he began creating the conditions necessary for the clover to grow. He cleared a small patch of land, redirected a stream to provide water, and opened the canopy to let sunlight reach the ground. Although unsure where the four-leaf clover would grow, Knight Sit continued to patiently prepare and hope. On the third day, the wind god, lord of fate and fortune, appeared. With a sweeping dance of powerful gusts, he blew away the forest canopy and scattered millions of four-leaf clover seeds across the land. The seeds floated everywhere, through the enchanted forest, over the valleys, and even to places where other knights stood. However, something peculiar happened. Seeds that landed on barren or shaded ground vanished instantly. Only the seeds that fell onto Sit's fertile, well-prepared patch of soil sprouted into magical four-leaf clovers. Knight Sit knelt down, tears of joy streaming down his face. The wind god spoke to him. Luck is not a matter of chance. I distribute it equally to all. But only those who prepare diligently and create the ideal conditions can transform these opportunities into true fortune. This story reminds us of those who often visit temples, light incense, and pray for the Buddha's salvation, yet fail to seize opportunities when they arise because they have not prepared the garden of their hearts. Buddhism teaches the human realm is a realm of delusion. Upon entering this world, people forget their innate wisdom and become lost in desires and mistakes. However, those who bravely cultivate morality and maintain a kind heart are like Knight Sit. They do not miss the chance for salvation. People like Knot, who lack patience and give up too soon, remain lost in the labyrinth of life. But those like Sit, who continually strive to improve themselves, will always be granted precious opportunities. The miracle of the garden within. Luck comes only to those who prepare the garden of their hearts. This is a garden cultivated with truthfulness, acting and thinking with honesty, free from deceit, kindness, always wishing the best for others, patience, never giving up, even in the face of the greatest challenges. Only when the garden of the heart is filled with the light of wisdom and the stream of compassion can the seeds of liberation take root and grow. The divine and the enlightened are always compassionate, opening the doors of the Dharma to save all beings. However, to receive such salvation, each individual must prepare a heart that is open enough and a will that is strong enough. So, if we desire luck and enlightenment, let us ask ourselves, is the garden of my heart ready? Story 11. Who was Buddha Shakyamuni in his past lives? Buddhist scriptures teach that life holds 12 great challenges, 2 of which are encountering Buddha's teachings and being born in a time when a Buddha exists. This highlights that having the fortune to encounter the Dharma or live during the time of a Buddha is an extraordinary blessing. To reach the enlightened state of Buddha Shakyamuni, he endured countless lifetimes of cultivation, overcoming immense hardships, and sacrificing his very life for the sake of the Dharma. One of the stories about the Buddha's past lives recorded in the scriptures is the tale of Prince Dhammakarma sacrificing himself to seek the Dharma. Long ago, in the land of Jambudvipa, there was a king named Brahma. The king had a son, Prince Dhammakarma, renowned throughout the kingdom for his devotion and unwavering desire to seek the true Dharma. One day, Indra, the king of heaven, disguised himself as a Brahmin and appeared before the prince. He said, "I can teach you the Dharma, but to hear these precious teachings, you must offer your life as an offering. If you are willing to leap into a fiery pit, I will share the Dharma with you." The Brahmin's harsh demand shocked the entire royal court. King Brahma, the queen, the courtiers, and all the royal attendants pleaded with him to accept anything else, fortresses, wealth, or even family, rather than the prince's life. However, the Brahmin simply replied, "I am not forcing anyone. If the prince does not comply, I will not teach the Dharma." Prince Dhammakarma, with a burning desire for the true teachings, placed the pursuit of Dharma above all worldly ties. Resolute, he declared to the kingdom that in 3 days he would leap into the fiery pit to seek the Dharma. The entire nation was overcome with grief, weeping at the prince's decision, but no one could sway his unwavering resolve. On the fateful day, before thousands of citizens who had gathered to bid farewell, Prince Dhammakarma stood at the edge of the fiery pit and spoke resolutely. For countless lifetimes, I have wandered through the cycle of birth and death, enduring endless suffering. I have indulged in pleasures, succumbed to desires, killed, and lived recklessly in the human realm. In the heavenly realms, fleeting joys disappear when life ends. In hell, I have endured the agonies of mountains of knives and seas of fire. In the realm of hungry ghosts, I have been tormented by endless hunger and thirst. In the animal realm, my body has served as food for others. The prince continued, despite enduring such suffering, I have never once sought the Dharma for liberation. Today, I vow to relinquish this life in exchange for the true teachings. No one shall stop me. Once I attain Buddhahood, I promise to return and liberate all of you. As the prince prepared to leap, the Brahmin recited a verse. Always keep a heart full of compassion. Overcome all resentment. Show mercy to all beings. And cultivate a virtuous mind. The Dharma is the guiding light, and those who follow it will achieve the virtue of a bodhisattva. Upon hearing these words, the prince, without hesitation, threw himself into the fiery pit. At that moment, the earth quaked, celestial flowers rained from the heavens, and the gods wept in unison. A miracle occurred. The blazing fire transformed into a lotus pond. The prince sat atop a radiant lotus, his face serene, his entire body emanating a golden light. The king of heaven, Indra, revealed his true form, took the prince's hand, and said, "Your act has moved heaven and earth. You have sacrificed your life not for yourself alone, but for the liberation of all beings. From now on, your merit will spread across Jambudvipa. However, if you abandon sentient beings in their suffering and seek liberation for yourself alone, you will not fulfill your vow." The prince replied with steadfast determination, "I thank you for your praise, but please do not hinder my resolve. I must fulfill my promise, even if it means sacrificing everything." As the prince finished speaking, the lotus pond glowed brighter than ever, and a voice echoed from the heavens. "You have demonstrated unwavering resolve and boundless compassion. You shall attain Buddhahood, and when that time comes, you will liberate all sentient beings." After recounting the story, Buddha Shakyamuni turned to Ananda and said, "Prince Dhammakarma was my past self. King Brahma was my father, King Suddhodana, and the queen was my mother, Queen Maya. Through countless lifetimes, I persevered, enduring immense hardships in pursuit of the Dharma. Today, I have attained Buddhahood and vow to use the Dharma to save all sentient beings." The story of Buddha's past life is not just a lesson in determination and compassion, but also a testament to the value of the Dharma and the sacrifices made for noble causes. It reminds us that achieving greatness requires perseverance, sacrifice, and a heart that never ceases to love. Story 12. A lifetime of sorrow and failure from not understanding two key philosophies. Our lives are filled with failures, suffering, and worries. Not because fate has predetermined it, but because we fail to grasp two fundamental philosophies, going with the flow of nature and letting go of selfish desires. These are not just profound lessons, but guiding principles that help people live peacefully and achieve true happiness and success. Philosophy 1. Go with the flow of nature, and everything will fall into place. People often want everything to go their way, but forget that the more they try to control, the more tangled things become. Going with the flow doesn't mean giving up. It means understanding the natural order of things and acting wisely within it. When you let go of worries and attachments, life begins to flow more smoothly. A calm mind makes life's storms seem lighter. Only when you stop fighting against nature will you realize that a river always finds its way to the ocean. Someone who constantly forces things to align with their desires will only find exhaustion and disappointment. Remember, life is like the wind. It doesn't always blow in the direction we want. What matters is adjusting the sails, not trying to change the wind's direction. Philosophy 2. Let go of selfish desires, and everything will come naturally. Most of human suffering stems from greed and selfishness. When you constantly think about personal gain, you will never feel satisfied. The pursuit of excessive desires only burdens your mind with worry and sorrow. In contrast, when you prioritize the well-being of others, miracles tend to happen. People who live without selfish motives often receive more than they ever expected. This is the law of cause and effect, an unchanging truth. Reflect on your life. Were there times when you genuinely let go and acted selflessly, and unexpected joy found its way to you? And weren't there times when, in your relentless pursuit of personal gain, the outcomes often fell short of your expectations? Life isn't always about grand events. It's a series of small, daily actions. If you don't put your heart into doing the small things well, you'll never accomplish the big ones. Many people believe that small tasks aren't worth their attention, but these small tasks are the foundation of every success. Being human doesn't require doing monumental deeds. Simply fulfilling your responsibilities can bring a deep sense of inner peace. Don't pay too much attention to the opinions or judgments of others. Living to meet others' expectations will trap you in a cage of your own making. Instead of trying to please everyone, focus on doing your work well and finding fulfillment in it. Change your perspective to change your destiny. The root cause of sorrow doesn't lie in external circumstances, but in how we perceive them. An event itself carries no inherent meaning of good or bad. It is your mind that assigns value to it. When you change your perspective, the entire world around you transforms. The difficulties you face are not obstacles, but lessons designed to help you grow. If you accept reality and confront it with calmness, you'll realize that all suffering is fleeting. Consider every hardship an opportunity to strengthen your spirit, and every challenge overcome as a step closer to true happiness. Material wealth is not everything. Most of us believe that happiness comes from possessing material wealth. However, the truth is that material enjoyment brings only fleeting joy. True freedom and peace can only be felt when your soul is liberated. Don't chase superficial pleasures and forget that true joy comes from within. A person living in poverty but appreciating what they have can often be happier than someone wealthy but perpetually dissatisfied. Life is a series of constant changes. Nothing remains good forever, and nothing stays bad forever. Keep your mind clear and always ready to embrace whatever comes your way. When you learn to let go and avoid attachment, you'll realize that peace isn't something to seek far away. It resides within your own mind. Story 13. Don't overthink. A touch of simplicity is true wisdom. It's commonly believed that foresight is a sign of intelligence, but the wisdom of the ancients teaches us otherwise. Looking too far ahead can be unwise. Sometimes a moderate level of simplicity in thought and action is the smartest approach, bringing true peace and wisdom. A minor official ruins himself by overthinking. The famous Russian writer Chekhov tells the story of a minor official who met a tragic end, all because of a sneeze. During a theater performance, this official accidentally sneezed, and some spittle landed on the bald head of a general seated in front of him. Realizing what had happened, he quickly apologized to the general. However, from that moment on, he became consumed by fear and anxiety. In his mind, he constantly imagined dreadful scenarios, being scolded, demoted, or even imprisoned. His growing worries left him sleepless and unable to eat. In the end, unable to bear the torment he had created for himself, he died in fear. Ironically, the general had not given the incident any thought. It was the official's excessive overthinking and imagining of non-existent consequences that drove him to his tragic end. The king of Yu loses his family due to overthinking. In the annals of Lu Buwei, there is a story about the king of Yu and the disastrous consequences of his excessive suspicion. The king of Yu had 4 sons. A treacherous minister, seeking to manipulate the court, repeatedly slandered the princes, accusing them of plotting rebellion. At first, The king dismissed these claims, but over time, his anxiety grew. To protect his throne, he eventually executed his 3 eldest sons. The youngest prince, witnessing the death of his brothers, lived in constant fear and confusion. He thought, "Even if I am loyal, my father will not spare me. It's better to strike first." Ultimately, the youngest prince rebelled and killed the king of Yu. On his deathbed, the king bitterly realized that his baseless suspicion and far-reaching worries had brought tragedy upon his family. Keep a narrow focus. Concentrate on the present. The wisdom of the ancients teaches us that instead of overthinking the distant future, we should focus on handling what is in front of us. Imagine a 50-centimeter wide path laid on the ground. Anyone can easily walk across it. However, if the same path is placed on a bridge spanning a deep gorge, the walker may tremble with fear and lose their balance. Anxiety makes the task more difficult, even though the path itself remains unchanged. Similarly, when we allow worries about the future to dominate our thoughts, our minds create barriers that make present tasks seem more challenging. The ancients said, "The mind should not dwell on the future, nor cling to the past." This reminds us that by letting go of distant worries and past regrets, and by focusing on the present moment, we can lead a more peaceful and meaningful life. Story 14. How a kind-hearted person deals with others' mistakes. In life, no one is perfect, and everyone makes mistakes. What truly matters is how we respond to the errors of others. A kind-hearted person does not expose or ridicule others for their faults, but uses compassion to guide and help them, spreading deep humanistic values. Below are stories that illustrate the wise and compassionate way the ancients handled such situations. Wang Hua, not exposing a friend's mistake. Wang Hua, a native of Yao in Zhejiang, lived during the Ming dynasty. He became the top scholar Zhuangyuan in the 17th year of the Chenhua era, under Emperor Xianzong, and later served as a vice minister in the Ministry of Rites. Wang Hua was renowned for his integrity, moral character, and uprightness. While serving as an official, Wang Hua was falsely accused by someone close to him. This individual shifted the blame for another's misdeeds onto Wang Hua to harm him. Friends and colleagues in the court advised Wang Hua to defend himself and expose the person behind the scheme. But Wang Hua refused, saying, "If I defend myself, wouldn't that mean exposing personal matters and the mistakes of my friend?" Thus, he chose not to explain or retaliate. When his son, Wang Yongming, who would later become a renowned Ming dynasty philosopher, heard about the incident, he planned to submit a memorial to the emperor to clear his father's name. Learning of his son's intentions, Wang Hua immediately wrote to dissuade him. He said, "Doing so would bring shame upon your father. If you expose the faults of my friend, it would be an even greater disgrace." Wang Yongming realized the profound meaning behind his father's words and immediately abandoned his plan. Wang Hua's virtue and compassion became a shining example, not only preserving his own honor, but also raising an exceptional son like Wang Yongming. Han Qi, tolerant toward a subordinate's mistake. Han Qi, a native of Anyang in Xiangzhou, was a distinguished figure during the Northern Song dynasty. One night, as he was writing poetry, Han Qi called a soldier to hold a candle for light. Distracted, the soldier accidentally tilted the candle, causing the flame to catch Han Qi's hair. Instead of becoming angry or scolding him, Han Qi calmly extinguished the fire with his sleeve and continued writing. A short while later, Han Qi noticed that the soldier had been replaced. Realizing that the supervising officer had likely removed the soldier out of fear of punishment, Han Qi summoned the officer and said, "There's no need to replace him. He has now learned how to hold the candle properly." This action deeply impressed everyone in the army with Han Qi's tolerance and generosity. Moreover, during his tenure as prime minister, Han Qi noticed that many court documents included letters of accusation and mutual attacks among officials. He retained these letters without allowing them to spread, preventing division and maintaining harmony in the court. The ancients taught, "Do not expose others' faults or flaunt your own strengths." A kind-hearted person not only practices tolerance, but also protects the dignity and self-respect of others. They understand that exposing someone's faults doesn't improve the situation, but often makes it worse. Conversely, by using compassion to forgive and encourage, they not only dissolve grievances, but also foster strong relationships, making life more harmonious and peaceful. Story 15. Laozi's Three Treasures of Life. Laozi, the renowned ancient Chinese philosopher, left behind profound teachings in the Tao Te Ching. Among these, he emphasized three treasures of life: kindness, frugality, and not competing for supremacy. These principles are not merely guidelines for interacting with others, but also a way of living that leads to harmony, happiness, and enduring fulfillment. Laozi's Three Treasures. Laozi said, "I have three treasures that I hold close. The first is kindness. The second is frugality. The third is not daring to compete for supremacy." These treasures are not just principles for interacting with others, but also serve as a compass for living a meaningful life, helping people rise above worldly desires and temptations. Kindness, the root of courage. Laozi taught that kindness is the foundation of all human relationships. A kind person not only lives with love and empathy, but also inspires and awakens courage in others. He said, "A kind man, when fighting, can win. When protecting, can endure. Heaven shields those who are kind." A notable example of kindness is Wu Qi, a renowned general during the Warring States period. He treated his soldiers like family, even going so far as to suck pus from their wounds with his mouth. Because of his kindness, his soldiers were willing to risk their lives for him. This demonstrates that kindness is not only a moral virtue, but also an inexhaustible source of strength in critical moments. Frugality, the foundation of wealth. Laozi said, "Frugality leads to wealth." Frugality is not merely about saving material resources, but also about respecting and making the most of what one has. From great leaders like Cao Cao to scholars like Zhuba Liu, frugality has always been a highly valued quality. Gao Gao once advice. "My clothes are worn for more than 10 years. Washing and mending keep them useful. After my death, there is no need for elaborate burial with gold and silver. Plain clothes will suffice." Zheng Guifan, a prominent figure of the Qing dynasty, also emphasized, "If we wish to leave blessings for our ancestors and descendants, there is no better way than through frugality." Frugality not only helps accumulate wealth, but also cultivates moral character and fosters harmony in relationships. It is a timeless value that enables people to live peacefully and sustainably, not competing for supremacy, humility to advance further. Laozi advised, "One who does not compete for supremacy can become a true treasure." The ancients believed that humility is the greatest strength. On the surface, a humble person may seem to take a step back, but in reality, this is a strategy to move further ahead. Like the vast ocean, which can accommodate all rivers because it places itself at the lowest point. Laozi referred to this as the way of advancing by retreating, taking a step back to move 3 steps forward. This is not about fear or avoidance, but the wisdom of handling life and relationships. The 3 treasures in modern life. In today's society, these values remain profoundly meaningful. Kindness fosters genuine and sincere relationships. Frugality helps individuals manage material wealth and live peacefully. Not competing for supremacy teaches humility and encourages continuous learning. Laozi not only imparted a philosophy of life, but also showed us how to live in harmony with ourselves and the world. By embracing these 3 treasures, we can achieve enduring peace and prosperity in life. We sincerely wish you good health, peace, and happiness. Thank you so much for listening and spending your valuable time watching our video. We hope that these insights bring positive value, helping you become stronger and more serene on your journey through life.